You know what's chilling? It's when you spend time with someone you've known your whole life, someone who carries your bloodline, and instead of feeling safe, you leave that space feeling drained to your core. Not just tired, not just a little off, but hollowed out. Like something was taken from you without your permission. That's not normal. Energy is meant to flow between people, but when every encounter leaves you exhausted, that's a sign you're not in the presence of love. You're standing in the presence of someone pulling from you, feeding off your light, weakening your spirit with a force you can't see. And deep down, you already know it. Think about how life patterns start to shift after being with certain family members. You see them, and suddenly things begin to crumble. Arguments break out in your home, money seems to slip through your hands, your health feels unstable, doors that were open to you suddenly slam shut. Coincidence? No. Destruction leaves a trail, and dark spiritual influence always leaves evidence. If your blessings collapse like dominoes after time with a particular person, you need to wake up. Someone is working against you, not for you. And then there's the way they look at you. That stare that lingers too long, piercing, unblinking, almost as if they're trying to see through you. It's not just uncomfortable, it's invasive. It's domination disguised as attention, because the eyes are more than sight. They're conduits of intention. When someone uses darkness, they can project envy, fear, and control through their gaze. If your instincts scream at you under their eyes, you must listen. Pay attention to their words, because words are never empty. They can either build or destroy, heal or curse. When a family member constantly jokes about your failures, diminishes your achievements, or speaks sickness and loss into your future, don't shrug it off as casual talk. Words carry energy, they are seeds, and when repeated often enough, they plant curses into the soil of your life. Their language exposes their heart, and if their heart is poisoned, so are their words. Sometimes the evidence isn't in what they say, but in what shows up around you. Strange objects left in your room, misplaced belongings, gifts that make you feel uneasy the moment you touch them. These aren't harmless. They are tools, anchors meant to tether negative energy to your space. When your environment shifts without explanation, when you feel a weight in your home you can't shake, it's not your imagination. That's deliberate. Look at the way they try to separate you from others. Suddenly, your relationships sour without reason. People you love distance themselves, misunderstandings multiply, and somehow, this family member always seems to be at the center of it. Isolation is one of the oldest weapons of control. If they can cut you off, they can weaken you. If they can weaken you, they can conquer you. And then there are the nights, restless sleep, recurring nightmares, shadowy presences pressing against your chest. These are not random dreams. When a family member uses dark power, they don't stop at the physical world. They try to invade your spirit in the hours you're most vulnerable. Night becomes their battlefield, and your rest becomes their target. But here's what makes it even more dangerous: they wear masks. They can act loving, supportive, and protective in front of others. They can smile at you with warmth that feels real. But behind that mask, envy burns. They applaud your success in public, but in private, they curse your name. That duality is their greatest weapon, because it blinds you with familiarity and makes you doubt your instincts. And often they hide under religion. They pray with you, they talk about God, they quote scripture, but their spirit doesn't match their words. It's not how loudly someone prays that reveals their truth. It's the fruit of their presence. Do you feel lifted or destroyed after being around them? Because darkness can wear holy clothes and still be darkness. At the end of it all, the greatest defense you have is your intuition. That feeling you can't explain but can't ignore, that is your spirit warning you. You don't need every piece of evidence lined up to know when something is wrong. You've felt it in your gut, in your skin, in your soul. Trust that. Because the greatest mistake you can make is dismissing your inner alarm when it's screaming at you that someone close isn't who they appear to be. Your intuition never lies, and it will always point you to the truth, if you're brave enough to listen. Think about those moments in your life when everything was flowing. Your health was strong, your relationships were steady, opportunities seemed to find their way to you, and then suddenly, after one encounter, it all begins to unravel. You can't explain it. A string of bad luck shows up out of nowhere. You start getting sick more often, money slips through your fingers, the peace in your home turns into constant conflict, and nothing seems to go right. That's not random. That's not life just being unfair. Destruction doesn't happen without a source. When dark spiritual energy is aimed at you, it leaves a mark, and that mark often shows up in the chaos that follows you. It's like invisible fingerprints on the scene of a crime. You don't see the hands that caused it, but you see the wreckage they leave behind. You know the difference between natural hardship and targeted attack. Life has ups and downs, yes, but when you start noticing a pattern that repeats only after being around a certain person, you must pay attention. Because the truth is, darkness doesn't always come in the form of a stranger knocking at your door. Sometimes it comes dressed as family, sitting across from you at the dinner table. They may smile at you, even hug you, but envy and malice have no boundaries. When someone is working against you spiritually, they don't need to raise their voice, they don't need to touch you, they don't even need to be in your home for long. All they need to do is plant the energy, and it begins to unravel everything stable in your life. The most dangerous part is how easy it is to dismiss. You start questioning yourself. Maybe it's bad luck, maybe it's just stress, maybe it's coincidence. But when you're honest with yourself, you know better. You notice how the argument with your spouse erupted right after that visit. You notice how the job opportunity fell apart right after their phone call. You notice how your health took a turn for the worse right after you ate their food. Patterns don't lie. They repeat to wake you up. And when destruction consistently follows the same person's presence, that's not accident. That's intention. Dark spiritual power always carries one goal: to destabilize you, to weaken your foundation so you doubt yourself, so you shrink, so you stop moving forward. And what better way to achieve that than by targeting your health, your finances, and your relationships, the three pillars that hold your life together. The breakdown is never random. It is designed, it is orchestrated, and the person behind it counts on you staying blind, counts on you brushing it off as life being unfair. So they can keep striking over and over again, but you don't have to accept it. The first step to breaking free is seeing it for what it is. Once you recognize that the chaos in your life is not coincidence but a weapon, you take back your power. Because the moment you stop excusing the destruction, the moment you stop explaining away the patterns, is the moment their control over you begins to shatter. There's something unsettling about the way certain people look at you. You've felt it before. That gaze that lingers a little too long, that stare that doesn't just notice you but pierces straight through you, leaving you unsettled in ways you can't explain. It's not admiration, it's not curiosity, it's something darker, because the eyes aren't just windows to the soul. They are weapons when someone chooses to use them that way. When a family member is working with dark spiritual power, their gaze becomes more than just sight. It becomes an attack. It's the silent way they project envy, malice, or domination without speaking a single word. Think about how it makes you feel. You're in a room full of people, But the second their eyes lock on you, your body stiffens, your energy shifts, and suddenly you're uncomfortable in your own skin. That's not paranoia. That's not imagination. That's your spirit warning you that something is off. Because a gaze like that isn't just watching, it's feeding. It's probing. It's attempting to gain entry where it doesn't belong. And if you've ever caught yourself looking away quickly, avoiding their eyes because of the weight they carry, that's not weakness, that's self-protection. We underestimate how powerful intention can be. A smile on their face may fool others, but the truth is always revealed in the eyes. Eyes that feel cold, unblinking, too fixed. Those are signs of someone who wants more than to just see you. They want to strip you, to weaken you, to break your confidence. And if you've ever walked away from an encounter feeling smaller, less sure of yourself, almost as if that look stayed with you even after they left, then you know the power behind it is real. Darkness rarely announces itself loudly. It works silently, subtly, through stares, through silence, through invisible attacks that only your spirit can sense. And here's the key: you must trust that instinct, because when you catch that unsettling gaze and your gut tightens, that's not your imagination running wild. That's truth. That's your inner alarm system telling you that not every smile is sincere, not every look is harmless, and not every family member is safe. Words are never just words. They carry weight, they carry power, they carry energy that can either build you up or break you down. And when a family member is using dark spiritual power, their weapon of choice isn't always some ritual or object. It's often their tongue. They disguise it as casual talk, as a joke, as an offhand comment, but the effect isn't lighthearted. It's destructive. They speak words over you that don't sound like encouragement, but sound like limitation. They plant seeds of doubt, fear, and failure, and they do it in a way that makes you second guess yourself instead of questioning them. Think about how many times you've heard a family member say something like, "You'll never be able to handle that," or "I knew this would go wrong for you," or "People like you don't get that lucky." They laugh as if it's harmless, but those words lodge themselves deep inside you. They echo in your head when you're alone, and when you start failing, when things start slipping, you wonder if they were right. But they weren't predicting your failure, they were creating it. Because words spoken with malice, with envy, with hidden intent don't just fade into the air. They linger, they take root, and they begin to shape the reality around you. There's a reason ancient cultures, religions, and traditions all teach that words hold power. A blessing can change the course of your life, but so can a curse. And when someone close to you constantly speaks negativity over your future, you can't ignore it. That's not love, that's not tough honesty, that's a deliberate attempt to weaken your spirit. The most dangerous part is that it blends into normal family dynamics. You think that's just how they are, they're just blunt, they don't mean anything by it. But ask yourself, why does it always leave you feeling smaller? Why does it always leave you doubting yourself? Why do you feel less capable every time you hear their voice echo in your mind? Because they're not simply speaking, they're attacking. And here's the truth, the energy in those words matters more than the tone they're delivered in. Someone can whisper with a smile and still curse you. Someone can pray out loud and still use their words against you. What you need to watch for is the impact. Do their words give you strength, or do they strip you of it? Do they light a fire in you, or do they smother the one you already have? Because when a family member uses words as weapons, it's never about what they say. It's about how you start to believe it. And that belief is what fuels their power over you. Sometimes the danger doesn't come through what's said or how someone looks at you. It comes through the objects around you, the things you touch every day, the spaces you think are safe. You walk into your room and something feels off. You notice an item out of place, something that doesn't belong there, or worse, something that makes you uneasy the moment you see it. Maybe it's a strange object tucked into your belongings. Maybe it's something that disappears and reappears with no explanation. Maybe it's a gift that, from the second you hold it, doesn't feel right. That is not chance. That is not clumsiness or forgetfulness. That is intention. People who use dark spiritual power know that the easiest way to reach you is through what you allow into your personal space. They'll use your environment because it's the one thing you rarely question. You think, it's just a misplaced item, or I must have left that there. But deep down you feel the shift. You feel the weight in the atmosphere change. You feel how your peace doesn't sit right in that space anymore. That's not your imagination. That's your spirit alerting you that something unnatural has been planted. And it's not just about the physical object, it's about the energy attached to it. Objects can be charged. They can carry intention. They can be left behind as anchors so that the person who placed them doesn't even have to be present to disturb your life. That gift that makes you restless, that small token that always seems to show up, it's not just a thing, it's a carrier. It's the channel through which negativity is directed into your space. You've got to trust how your body reacts. If something feels wrong when you touch it, it is wrong. If you suddenly get a headache after bringing something into your home, if your sleep becomes restless after a new object enters your space, you need to pay attention. Because the physical world and the spiritual world are not separate, they overlap. And when someone in your own family is using darkness against you, they'll exploit that overlap by using your environment to reach you. It's subtle, it's calculated, and it's meant to make you doubt yourself. But the truth is, your instincts are never wrong. If the space you live in feels less like home and more like a trap, then you are already seeing the evidence of someone working against you, and they are closer than you think. One of the most dangerous tactics someone using dark spiritual power will employ is isolation. They know that if they can separate you from the people who love you, if they can cut off your support system, then you become easier to weaken, easier to manipulate, easier to destroy. And it doesn't always happen in obvious ways. Sometimes it starts with subtle words whispered to others, small comments designed to plant doubt about your character, little lies that grow into full-blown narratives. Suddenly you notice people looking at you differently. Friends stop calling, family members become distant. And you can't understand why, because you haven't done anything to deserve it. But that's the design. The goal is to leave you questioning yourself, to make you wonder what you did wrong, to push you into a place where you start thinking maybe you don't belong anywhere. Maybe you're not loved, maybe you're truly alone. And once you start believing that, they have you exactly where they want you, vulnerable, unsupported, easy to break. Darkness always thrives in silence, always thrives in isolation. You see, division is one of the oldest tools of control. If they can't overpower you directly, they'll make sure you have no one to stand beside you when the attack comes. They'll twist relationships, stir jealousy, spark misunderstandings. Suddenly you're arguing with people you once trusted, and it doesn't even make sense why. But look deeper and you'll find the same person at the root of it every time, the same person whose presence always seems to coincide with the fractures in your connections. And here's the cruelest part, because it comes from a family member, people often believe them. Their words carry weight, not because they're true, but because of who's speaking them. They leverage blood ties to gain credibility, and by the time you realize what's happening, you're standing alone, cut off from the very people you thought would always stand with you. But your isolation is not a reflection of your worth. it's a strategy of war. They separate you because they fear your strength when you are supported. They silence you because they fear your voice when it's amplified by others. They corner you because they know you're harder to defeat when you're surrounded by love. The moment you recognize that the loneliness you feel isn't natural but manufactured, you begin to take your power back. Because being alone doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're being targeted. And the only reason someone targets you so fiercely is because they know the power you carry when you finally rise. The attack doesn't always come when you're awake, alert, and able to fight back. Sometimes it comes when you're most vulnerable, when your eyes are closed, when your defenses are down, when you're in the quiet of the night trying to rest. That's when the darkness tries to invade your dreams. You start waking up drenched in sweat, haunted by nightmares that feel too real, chased by shadows that seem to follow you even after you've opened your eyes. You toss and turn, unable to find peace, and no matter how tired you are, your sleep never feels refreshing. That's not just stress, that's not just an overactive imagination, that's an assault on your spirit. When someone in your family uses dark spiritual power against you, they don't stop with the physical world. They reach into the unseen, they aim for the place where your guard is weakest, your subconscious, because if they can disturb your rest, they can drain your strength. If they can plant fear into your dreams, they can control how you wake up in the morning. And if they can rob you of peace at night, they can weaken your ability to stand strong during the day. You know the difference between a random, bad dream and a pattern of spiritual disturbance. When the same shadows show up over and over, when you feel a presence pressing on your chest while you sleep, when you hear whispers in the night that no one else can hear, that is not coincidence. That is deliberate, and it's terrifying because it makes you feel powerless in your own bed, in the one place you should feel safest. But here's the truth, those attacks are not stronger than you. The fact that they're invading your dreams means you're a threat to them while you're awake. They target you in the night because they can't stop you in the light. They attack your sleep because they fear the power you carry when you're fully awake and alert. And what you have to remember is this: disturbed sleep is not a sign of weakness. It's proof that the battle is real. You're not imagining it, you're not crazy, and you're not alone. The darkness comes at night because that's the only time it thinks you won't fight back. But the moment you recognize what's happening, you strip away its advantage, because awareness is strength, and once you see the pattern, the nightmare loses its hold. You ever notice how the most dangerous people in your life aren't the ones who openly show you their hate? They're the ones who wear masks. They're the ones who hug you with one hand and stab you with the other. And when it's a family member who operates like this, it's even harder to recognize, because your heart wants to believe their love is real. But sometimes what looks like love is just a disguise, and behind the disguise sits envy, resentment, and a desire to see you fall. This is how dark spiritual energy works. It doesn't march into your life announcing itself. It doesn't come with flashing lights saying, "I'm here to destroy you." No, it hides, it pretends. It cloaks itself in smiles, in gestures of care, in the language of family. And the person who uses it against you will often play two roles: the one everyone sees, and the one you feel when nobody else is looking. Have you ever seen how they celebrate you in public but act cold when you're alone? How they congratulate you for your success, but their eyes don't match their words? Or how they check in on you, pretending to care, but every question they ask is just digging for information they'll later use to work against you. That's duality, that's the mask, and that mask is their greatest weapon, because it allows them to stay close enough to you to attack while making sure no one else suspects them. And here's the truth: People who live with that dual face are dangerous. They'll tell the world how much they love you, how much they support you, how proud they are of you, but behind closed doors, their actions don't line up. They gossip about you, they laugh at your pain, they secretly enjoy watching you struggle. They may even contribute to the struggle, then step in pretending to be your savior. That's the cycle. They create the wound, then act like the healer, so you never realize they were the one bleeding you in the first place. This is why your intuition feels so conflicted around them. On one hand, they say and do all the right things, but on the other, your spirit never fully rests in their presence. You feel uneasy even when they're smiling. You feel guarded even when they're being kind. And you think maybe you're imagining it. Maybe you're being paranoid, but you're not. What you're feeling is the truth behind the mask, because a mask can fool the eyes, but it cannot fool the spirit. And it gets worse because these family members often position themselves as the most loyal, the most supportive, sometimes even the most religious. They'll pray with you, talk about God with you, act like they want the best for you, while secretly channeling their envy into energy meant to hold you back. They wear goodness as a costume, but their intentions are dark. They need that costume because it keeps them close enough to see your weaknesses, to access your environment, to know your dreams and plans. Without the disguise, they'd never be trusted enough to get near you. You've probably noticed how their love feels conditional. They cheer for you when you're struggling, because it doesn't threaten them. But the moment you rise, the moment you step into your power, the moment you start achieving what they never thought possible, they pull away. Their smile fades, their support becomes silence, or worse, they start undermining you, mocking you, or planting seeds of doubt, because your success exposes their resentment, and no mask can hide what the eyes reveal when envy takes over. That's why you have to pay attention to the small cracks in their disguise. Notice how their tone changes when you share good news. Notice how they're quick to offer help in your failures but absent in your victories. Notice how they ask you questions but never celebrate your answers. Those cracks are the truth peeking through the mask, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. The danger of duality is not just that they deceive you, it's that they deceive everyone else too. They build a reputation of being kind, trustworthy, loyal, so when you finally speak up about your suspicions, nobody believes you. People say, no, not them. They would never. That's how they maintain control. They isolate you, not by force, but by making you look like the unreasonable one. And that's exactly how dark spiritual power thrives. In silence, in secrecy, in shadows where no one thinks to look. But here's what I need you to understand. Your intuition is stronger than their disguise. Your body reacts to what your mind can't explain. You feel drained after they visit. You feel uneasy when they call. You notice how your blessings collapse right after you confide in them. That's the evidence. And while their mask may fool others, it can't erase the patterns you've seen, the feelings you've carried, the warnings your spirit has been sending you all along. The mask exists because they're afraid of being exposed. If they were truly powerful, they wouldn't need to pretend. They hide behind kindness because they know if their true intentions were revealed, their power over you would break instantly. And that's where your strength comes in. You don't need to confront them in rage or fight them on their terms. You need to trust what you know, pull back your energy, protect your space, and refuse to be fooled by the illusion they've created. Because the scariest thing about masks is also the simplest truth they always slip. At some point, the anger will show, the envy will slip through, the resentment will reveal itself. And when it does, don't second, guess it, don't excuse it, don't tell yourself they didn't mean it. Believe what you see, Believe what you feel. Believe what they've shown you in those moments where the mask cracked. That's the real them, and that's the truth you can no longer ignore. And here's the power shift. They fear the day you stop looking at the mask and start seeing the person behind it. They fear the day you stop questioning yourself and start questioning them. They fear the day you stop explaining away your instincts and start acting on them. Because once you recognize their duality, once you accept that the person who hugs you could also be the one hurting you, you take away their ability to manipulate you. And when you take away that ability, their power collapses. So the next time you feel conflicted around someone who claims to love you, listen closely to your spirit. If the love doesn't feel safe, if the support doesn't feel real, if the kindness feels heavy instead of light, don't dismiss it. Don't let the mask blind you, because the mask was never meant to protect you. It was always meant to protect them. And when you stop falling for it, you start freeing yourself from it. Some of the most dangerous people you will ever encounter are not the ones who openly reject faith or walk away from it. They're the ones who hide behind it. They're the ones who speak the loudest about God, who make sure everyone sees how holy they are, who carry the Bible in their hand while carrying envy in their heart. And when that person is a family member, it becomes even harder to see, because the mask of religion makes them look untouchable. But the truth is this: not everyone who prays with you is praying for you. Not everyone who quotes scripture is living by it. Some people use religion as a cover to conceal the darkness they're working with. You've probably seen it. They lead prayers at family gatherings. They say the right words. They bow their head. But when the prayer is over, nothing about their spirit feels like light. You walk away from them feeling heavier, not lighter. You notice how their so-called prayers always focus on your struggles, never your victories. You notice how they never speak blessings over your life, but instead talk about how hard things will be for you, how tested you'll become, how storms will keep coming. They dress it up in spiritual language, but what they're really doing is speaking curses in disguise. And this is why it's so dangerous, because when words of negativity come from someone who claims to be spiritual, you start to believe them. You think maybe they're right, maybe God is trying to break me down, maybe I don't deserve good things, but you're not hearing prophecy, you're hearing poison. You're not being uplifted, you're being undermined. That's the difference between someone who truly walks in faith and someone who uses faith as a costume. One leaves you feeling strengthened, the other leaves you feeling broken. Pay attention to the fruits, not the performance. True spirituality produces love, peace, and encouragement. False spirituality produces fear, division, and doubt. If every time you're around that family member you leave feeling smaller, weaker, or unsettled, you've got your answer. Their prayers may sound holy, but their spirit betrays them. And here's what you need to understand: darkness knows how to imitate light. That's how it survives. If it showed up in its raw form, you'd recognize it instantly. But when it cloaks itself in religious language, in ritual, in performance, it becomes harder to spot. That's why so many people are fooled by it. They assume they pray, so they must be good. They read scripture, so they must be righteous. They go to church, so they must be safe. But those external actions don't guarantee a pure heart. They only guarantee a good disguise. You cannot afford to judge someone by how loud they pray or how often they talk about God. You must judge them by how you feel after being in their presence. Do they strengthen your faith or weaken it? Do they inspire hope or fuel fear? Do they encourage you to rise or remind you constantly of how much you might fail? Because intention always bleeds through action, no matter how pretty the packaging looks. And that's what makes this type of family member so dangerous. They are trusted automatically because of the image they project. They gain access to your life, your secrets, your struggles, because you think they're spiritual, they'll guide me. And once they have that access, they use it to work against you. They pray over your life while secretly hoping for your downfall. They offer advice that pulls you further from your path instead of closer to it. They become the very obstacle you never saw coming, because you were blinded by the robe they wore, the words they spoke, and the faith they claimed to carry. But here's the truth. They can fool others, but they can't fool your spirit. You've already felt the disconnect. You've already noticed the unease. You've already caught yourself thinking, something about this doesn't feel right. That feeling is real. That's your warning, and once you trust it, you begin to see clearly. You realize that not everyone who calls on God is calling for you. Some are calling against you. Some are using His name as a weapon to justify their envy. And once you see it, you can no longer unsee it. Because at the end of the day, spirituality is not about appearances, it's about energy, and energy doesn't lie. If their prayers leave you feeling cursed instead of blessed, if their faith leaves you feeling trapped instead of free, then what they're carrying isn't light. It's darkness disguised as holiness. And the moment you recognize that, you stop letting the mask blind you, and you start protecting yourself from the hand that wears it. One of the clearest signs that a family member is working with dark spiritual forces against you is when your dreams become their battleground. Pay attention to what happens in your sleep, because your subconscious is a place where the spirit world can reveal truths that your waking eyes can't always see. If you start having disturbing dreams where family members appear in strange ways, dreams where they're attacking you, chasing you, feeding you, or standing in the shadows while you struggle, that's not random. That's your spirit sounding the alarm. Darkness often shows its hand in the silence of the night, because when you sleep, your defenses are lowered. If someone is sending energy against you, if someone is speaking curses or invoking forces to harm you, you'll feel it first in your spirit before it manifests in your physical life. That's why people who are under spiritual attack often say, "I can't sleep. I wake up at 3 a.m. every night. I keep seeing their face in my dreams." That's not coincidence. That's exposure. It's the unseen becoming visible. Now think about this. Dreams are not just images, they're messages. They're warnings. They're glimpses into the battlefield. You're fighting without even realizing it. And when a family member is tied to those dreams, when their face, their presence, their energy keeps appearing in ways that disturb your peace, you cannot ignore it. Your spirit is telling you something that your logical mind might not want to accept. It's telling you that someone close is sending harm cloaked in familiarity. But here's what many people do wrong: they dismiss it. They wake up from a nightmare, shake it off, and say, "It's just stress. It's just my imagination." No, not every dream carries weight, but when patterns repeat, when the same person shows up again and again in situations that feel heavy, suffocating, or threatening, you must pay attention. That is not imagination, that is confirmation. And the more spiritually in tune you are, the more vivid these warnings will become. Sometimes you'll see them speaking words over you. Sometimes you'll feel physically attacked in the dream, waking up drained and exhausted, as if you've been in a fight. Sometimes you'll notice strange symbols, shadows, or even animals that don't make sense in the natural, but carry meaning in the spiritual. These are not empty images, they're evidence that something is being worked against you in the unseen. Understand this: when God wants to protect you, He gives you discernment, and one of the strongest forms of discernment is through your dreams. If you've been asking for clarity, if you've been feeling unease but weren't sure why, And suddenly, your dreams start exposing the person behind it. That's your answer. It might not make sense to your mind, but your spirit already knows, and here's what you need to do. Don't brush it off. Don't ignore the signs. Don't convince yourself that you're overthinking. Start paying attention. Keep a record. Write down the dreams, write down the patterns, and connect the dots. You'll start seeing that what your spirit is showing you at night is directly connected to what you're experiencing in the day. The arguments, the losses, the unexplained heaviness, it all starts to line up, and once you see it, you must act. You must protect yourself, spiritually and mentally. You must set boundaries, even with family, especially with family, because proximity doesn't equal loyalty. Blood doesn't guarantee love, and when your dreams reveal the truth, believe it. Believe what your spirit is trying to tell you, even if your heart doesn't want to. Because here's the reality. Darkness can wear a friendly face. It can sit at your table. It can share your bloodline, but it cannot hide in your dreams. That's where masks fall off. That's where true intentions are exposed. And when you start listening, you stop walking blindly into traps set against you, and you start reclaiming the power that was being stolen from you night after night. So when you begin to notice these patterns, your energy drained, your peace disturbed, your health shaken, your relationships poisoned, your dreams invaded, you can no longer deny it. These are not random events. They are signs. They are warnings. They are proof that not every battle you face is physical, not every struggle is emotional, and not every enemy stands outside your home. Sometimes it is someone within your very walls. The truth is painful, but it is also powerful, because once you recognize what's happening, you strip the darkness of its greatest weapon, secrecy. The enemy thrives in hiddenness, in silence, in your refusal to believe. But the moment you see it for what it is, the moment you acknowledge that even family can wield dark forces against you, you begin to take back control. You must guard your spirit with the same ferocity you guard your life. Protect your energy, protect your peace, and trust what your spirit reveals, even if it shakes you. Because discernment is not paranoia, it is protection, and if you ignore it, you hand over your power. But if you honor it, you become untouchable. So pay attention to the signs, believe what you see, and remember this: no matter how strong the darkness appears, it is always weaker than the truth. And the truth is this: you are not powerless, you are not blind, and you are not alone. The very fact that you see the signs means you are already winning the battle. The attack may come from within, but the victory will come from you. Would you like me to now weave this conclusion into the entire speech as a seamless closing flow, so it doesn't sound like a separate section, but feels like the natural end of the full message?